What up, y'all? It's your man, Abuamerican. I wasn't gonna really do any videos because Ramadan, and I'm trying to slow down so I don't get myself in trouble. It's a blessing. I do a lot of stuff that's kind of crazy when I get on my videos. Nonetheless, I feel slightly compelled to talk about the situation in Florida, and I wanted to wait a little bit to let things kind of clear up before I just jumped into the fray like so many others have with their agendas. And when I say need to learn about Islam, it's not to try and get a convert or a conversion. I mean, that would be nice, but that's not the entire point. That's not even the partial point. The point is so that Muslims and non Muslims alike can't hoodwink you about what Islam is. Now, if you go into it with an agenda, then fine. You're going to look for and find what you want to find, be it negative or positive. But if you are a free thinking, intelligent, and critically minded individual, then you'll find the truth. And that's the entire point of me telling people research Islam, understand it, take from proper sources. If you don't know who they are or what they are, hit me up and I'll show you. And yeah, it's not always pretty, but most of it is. So, anyway, let's go into the topic. Now, Omar Mateen, this Orlando shooter, I'm not going to go into conspiracies and all sorts of other stuff. The guy was obviously Muslim, he was obviously gay, and he was obviously disturbed as an individual, emotionally, mentally, and religiously. And that's very unfortunate for him. Now, Omar Mateen, when he was acting more upon his individual gayness than he was as a Muslim. Actually, he wasn't acting on Islam at all, and he would have probably have been best served to watch my 100-pound challenge video before taking action. Nonetheless, we say birds of a feather flock together, and so a man is upon the religion or the deeds of his close companions. And when we look at what's said in the media about him, he wasn't really known in his local masjid or mosque, whatever term you want to use. He was considered to be a loner who kept to himself. But in the gay community, even in the club that he shot up, he was well known. He was well known to be there at the club for over a decade, picking up men on the gay dating app. Apparently, it's called Grinder. I heard about this over this whole event. I mean, he was well known in that scene, but he wasn't really known in his Islamic community. So, I mean, he was more gay than he was Muslim. And for whatever reason, being conflicted as a gay Muslim, it led him to make some very distorted and, you know, um, incorrect decisions. We can go further talking about his lack of understanding of Islam. Obviously, from his initial action of shooting up a club, and shooting up people. I mean, this is not from Islam. Again, had he watched my video challenge and looked for proof in Islam that this is an acceptable act, he would find that it is not. And that is the point of my challenge, that you will not find that information. That's why you will not get my money. Nonetheless, if you can find something obscure and sound, then accept it, fine. I'll give you the money, but you won't find it. Nonetheless, part of the proof that he didn't really understand Islam and therefore can't take action on something that he can't understand is that he called 911 and pledged allegiance to three different groups: ISIS, al Nusra, and Hezbollah. Now, the most nominal Muslim who has nominal knowledge of Islam understands that these three groups, they hate each other with a passion that leads them to kill one another, literally kill each other. I mean, taking guns and bombs and shooting each other. So how can you pledge allegiance to three different groups with three different ideologies and three different methodologies of practicing Islam? It's impossible. It doesn't make sense. It's like saying you're going to be allying yourself with the KKK, the Jewish League, and the PLO. People would look at you like you were nuts. Three groups that would ideologically hate each other or each of those groups, but you're going to go hang out with all of them. You're going to be allegiant, you're going to be allied to them, and they all have different goals and purposes. It just doesn't make sense. The guy didn't understand Islam, and he acted accordingly. Now we go into what made him snap and take this action, and a lot of people will say, well, it was Islam. And you can't say it was Islam. It was his misguided desire, maybe, and I'm speculating here, his misguided desire to maybe expiate himself in Islam for being gay and being Muslim. Now, as Muslims, we understand the only sin that is not forgiven is shirk. Shirk means to worship something alongside with Allah, or to worship something other than Allah as is equal. Everything else is forgivable. So for him to take action like this as a potential doorway to expiate himself from his sin of being gay, and yes, it is a sin in Islam to be gay. We are not people who accept homosexuality. You can like us or hate us for that, but it's not something we accept. Nonetheless, there are ways around that in terms of seeking forgiveness. Nonetheless, Omar Mateen was a highly conflicted, highly emotionally, mentally, and religiously disturbed person. And, you know, I kind of feel sorry for him that he felt this was his only option, that he was so ignorant in his understanding of Islam, which goes back to what I said about people having to understand and learn about Islam, that he was so ignorant and so helpless and so desperate that he felt that this was his only way out. And I'm just speculating on what his intentions might have been, that he was maybe looking for a way to expiate himself for being gay and being Muslim. And what was going on in his head after that, Allah knows best. Who knows? Nonetheless, when you read or watch, both the mainstream media and especially the alternative media, it's like there's some great big, conspiracy theory of Muslims out there to just, destroy the West. But what most people don't seem to understand is a lot of Islam today are guys like me. We are from the West, and we don't want to see it destroyed because our families are there. My mother, my fathers, my brothers, my nieces, my nephews. And, guys like this mess it up for everybody. Anyway, this is just some thoughts and conversations I had with multiple people on the topic. It's your man, Abuamerican. Questions, comments, whatever else, hit me up in the comment section.